I think Zach is here. Zach, how are you? I see you.
How's it going?
Good, good. Living the dream, you know?
Oh, I got
There we
sticky
are.
note on my camera.
Ah.
How we doing?
Let me, good. All right, I'll change the screen here so everybody they can see you and they can see this. Zach, you're down in, sorry, I dropped my pen. You're down in Niagara Falls, aren't you? Or where exactly are you?
We're more to the right of London than down.
Yeah,
But yeah, I'm in Niagara Falls still, back home.
that's right. And what type of work would you say? What type of photographer are you? Because I know you're a jack of all trades. You shot a lot of different work in the last 6 months.
Yeah, you know what? COVID has been really rough for everybody, but despite that, I've managed to work on some pretty cool jobs and go on some trips and stuff. So I've been very lucky in that regard. But yeah, you know what? It's been a lot of real estate, and I've had a couple major clients like Mini Pop Kids. I'm doing an edit for Hilton. Actually, it's the Hilton specifically that I've been working for is the tallest hotel structure in Canada. So it's kind of a cool little milestone client. I went on a trip across Canada as well out to BC to do hip hop interviews. So yeah, it's been a crazy year. But I just want to let you know, first and foremost, too, I'll give a little bio. But other than that, I've made all my notes around the notes you sent me on Messenger. So if you want to kind of
Okay.
play back and forth with me on that, we can definitely go that route.
When did you graduate?
Huh.
Pretty recent.
2018.
2018.
Yeah,
There you go.
yeah.
Hard to believe.
I was gonna say I'm super honored that you'd asked me to come and speak, and I'm definitely missing Fanshawe dearly. It was a good chapter in life before all this COVID stuff.
Right.
I'll do my best to provide the best value for you guys today. I
Right.
appreciate your time and want to make sure it's worth it. And yeah, I also just wanted to give you a shout out too for being probably well, not probably, you are my favorite prof that was in the program, and I'll
Oh,
tell you why too.
I
Because
owe you that $20 too. So
you owe me $20. Well, perfect. All
yeah,
right, I'll give you
just
my
to save
transfer
us,
after
remember?
this. Um,
No, go ahead.
yeah, no, I was gonna say the reason being is not a good reason to everybody because some people would dread this side of your demeanor, but you never held back on criticism. Like your criticism
Right.
was always super helpful and constructive, and I seen it kind of bother some people, but then other people would kind of like take it and run with it and be like, okay, he's right. I need to improve on this, that. You were always like very, very specific. So that's much appreciated.
That's cool.
I think it helps with
Cool.
a lot of people's work.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Um, so let's talk about that Hilton job a little bit more. That was a lot of architectural photography. Just
Yeah.
curious as to how did you find that job? How did you get that job? 'Cause students always kind of wonder how do I get a job like that?
Well, I can hopefully show you on the camera here, but that. So, okay, just random kind of thing about my Instagram. If you guys want to pull up on your end on the monitors, you can find me on Instagram at ZFK underscore visuals. I don't know if maybe that shows up as my screen name on Zoom, but it would be spelt just like that. You can also go on www.zfkvisuals. There's no space or underscore. But yeah, so it's gonna get blown out on this
There we
camera.
go.
But anyways, I did like a little
I can blow it up
series.
as well here. Yeah, this is it, right?
Yeah, if you keep scrolling down,
Yeah.
like quite a bit, that is all their stuff though at the top.
Right.
But you'll see some pictures of the same building, and it's all winter, and there's some shots above the Horseshoe Falls in Niagara Falls.
Right.
You're getting close.
Keep going. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, almost there.
There we go.
That's the Icelandic Pilgrimage you're scrolling through right now.
Nice.
That was right after college. Okay, so right there where the blue water is in the casino, in the middle.
This one.
So
Yeah.
if you click on that and then you right click through some of the pictures, um, Oh yeah, no worries.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those are some drone pictures I took of the building there. And I've always found it to be a very regal building. You can see it from almost anywhere in the falls. So I've kind of always been fascinated by that and just architecture in general. So for me to say that that's my client really was kind of a huge milestone for me. At the bottom of that picture, there's also a big boxy building. It's white and black. That's a brand new theater. No, it's attached to the Hilton buildings.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, that's a big performance arts theater that they built, and it was completed like just in time for lockdown. So I'm still potentially open to maybe do a contract doing the photography of that in the spring. Hopefully, I've been pushing it. You know, driving by it and seeing it get built for 3 years would be kind of cool to photograph it for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I posted those pictures online as part of like a winter series. My Instagram kind of goes through seasons from fall to winter to spring, and it's something I've been working on for jeepers, like 2, 3 years. Right now, I have a bunch of temporary posts up just to continue to look busy. But
Yeah.
yeah, that was part of the winter series, and they found me posting those in December of 2019, and then by January 2020 they had reached out, their social media marketer had reached out and said that they were looking to do photography because they had just renovated the entire first and second levels of the building as well as adding the theater.
Okay.
There's other renovations they've done too, so yeah, they basically wanted to get all that covered and documented and put together for their social media networks and website.
Yeah. And dynamite shots here. Just kind of looking them over.
And
Some of them. How
I'm
much of this is natural light? How much of this is a little bit of fill flash? Or
everything is multi-composited to the nines. Like
yeah. Yeah.
15 images per shot. There's definitely a mix of long exposure to mid exposure, shutter speed length, and then a little bit of strobes here and there. That's kind of my style for interior stuff, and that wouldn't be possible without Fanshawe. You better bet.
Yeah.
It's not
No, very
it's
cool.
not a very easy skill to pick up without going to school, in my opinion.
I like that you say that because it is a technique that you have to know how to do it, and we don't exactly share it with the photographers that are our competitors in a way when they go, "How did you do that shot?" It's just a simple exposure. It's one shot.
It's a Phil Bell
Just good
industry
editing.
secret.
No, it's not. Yeah.
We can
Well,
pretend it is.
you gotta earn your stripes,
Yeah,
and
that's right.
and knowing that technique is helpful. And
Absolutely.
the students are now learning Capture One in
Okay.
our program, so that's a software that does even more amazing things.
What I actually did on some of those shots, if you scroll to the bottom right shot, it's of their front desk. Uh, should be
Yeah, this
white.
one.
Yeah. If you
Yeah,
click that one and flip through, you'll see I actually was running around. I bought like a mobile dolly to basically throw the tether on and be able to show the client the shots in real time and also micromanage and make sure that the shots were perfect because you can't screw up on a client like Hilton, you know?
no,
And that's actually my
no reshoot.
yeah, that was my client Colin. Um, I took on a client, not a client, a co-op student right before COVID, and the ironic thing about these shots is you'll see we have no masks on. This was in the
Yeah,
midst of the news flurry that came before, and literally 3 days after we shot this, it was provincial lockdown. So
right.
it was a weird time, and this job was actually on hold for months because I was like kind of fearing the end of the world in a way. I was like, well, I'm not going to put in 25 hours editing these shots if I'm not going to get paid because the stock market crashes. So, yeah.
Right.
Luckily, they got done with due time by the spring. These were shot in February, or no, March. Yeah,
Yeah.
beginning of March. But yeah, I think there's
Great.
a time
And
lapse in
they're
there
just coming
too.
out now, which really shows the timeline. That.
Yeah, deliverables were back in the spring to early summer, but yeah, in terms of the queue of work I have to put out there on social media, like the once you get out there and start really devoting your time to this stuff, you'll start to find that you have backlog shoots typically just for yourself, not for clients. You get the client stuff done, as soon as you can. But yeah, the amount of work I have on the back end for myself just creatively that is not finished is ridiculous. Like I could just stop doing work and just work on my own stuff for months at this point. But you got to keep the income coming in, right?
The other thing, just so that our students know, is also these shots that Zach took for the Hilton. Really, he can't post them until the client has used them. Like you create the imagery for them. You don't want to be the first one to post to Instagram with them. So sometimes you have to wait till the client is actually using the shots, and then we can post them to our social media accounts and show off what we're doing. And that's why it is months, if not a year later sometimes, because clients can get quite irritated if you do these great shots and then you post it to your Instagram and they're like, hey, they're my photos, let me post them, I paid for them.
Yeah, that's right. The bigger the client too, the more important that is. And sometimes NDAs and non-disclosure agreements and contracts come into play where you are legally bound not to post things. I think in this case with Hilton, they haven't used all of the shots, and it's been so much time that I did not ask for permission. I think that the people that are on the marketing team like the free marketing, so I think they're, content with me posting stuff. It's probably fine with them. But yeah, so if you don't mind, I just wanted to read a couple notes here, just kind of covering a little bit of my bio and just some of the stuff I wanted to cover. But yeah, not to come off on a negative note, but just a heads up, this is a cutthroat industry. It takes forever to kind of get in and get the ball rolling, and you have to accept that. There's no blueprint, and there's nobody holding your hand. It's up to you to hustle and experiment, and grow. You'll miss every opportunity you don't make. So taking the opportunity to go to school is definitely a good call. I know it was for me. And yeah, just also know that you'll never master this. This is a lifelong craft, and it's a subjective art. So anyone's idea of what is perfect work is different from person to person, right? So you kind of just have to find your style and your niche, I guess. So yeah, grab your coffee, give your head a smack, because I love to talk, and buckle up, get your paper and pen ready. I still have some notes from college as well, so I know I took some good notes when I was in this position. But yeah, so my background is I'm just a regular guy from Niagara Falls, and in high school I got into a video class, and previously I was always a little bit of a visual artist. I was into painting and drawing and stuff like this, and then I just stopped doing it for years. And then by grade 11 I took a video class and basically picked up a camera for the first time. And I was always a little bit of a YouTube fanatic. Like I used to love watching YouTube and stuff, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna start making videos, right? And yeah, so basically we would do these videos, and we would get super competitive, and the class and the teacher would watch, and we would be just going crazy with our final products. And basically that's what got me into the industry and put my shoe in. And I basically decided I'm going to take an extra year of high school, and I'm going to look for a co-op. So basically that time came, and Niagara is not a huge industry like Toronto or even London would be bigger in terms of demand for photo and video. Out here you really have to do both to survive. You can't really do one or the other. There's not a ton of demand. So basically I had this list of 15 places, let's say, for co-ops. I called every single one. None of them had work, or they had a student placement already. So basically at that point there was one left on the bottom, and I had read the book by its cover and said, yeah, I'm going to call them last because they got a funny name. It was called Giant Shoe Creative. Weird name, right? So basically I called this guy, Brad, and if he didn't answer, or he was just like, oh, I don't have work, I was going to flunk, because I already had been accepted to Fanshawe at this point, and there was really no point in sticking around for not having a co-op, right? So yeah, he calls me down. I come down right there on the first day, give him my resume, and it was the start of a beautiful relationship that unfortunately is no more, because I ended up kind of departing with them in February 2020 because my business started to kind of take off. But yeah, this guy Brad really was a huge mentor role in my life, and basically turned me on to photography. So basically, I think I already said I got accepted to Fanshawe, so maybe the timeline's off or something, but I'm pretty sure he's the one that turned me on to photography because, to be blunt, I thought video was really cool and it took more skill, and I thought, if you put together this motion picture, it's all this different stuff you got to put together, and it's a big skill set, and taking a picture is just kind of like, it's simple, it's for nerds, whatever. And you know what? I was completely wrong, because now I respect the art of photography arguably way more than video, and in a lot of ways I enjoy it way more. You're kind of like grabbing a still moment in time and you can manipulate it to your artistic abilities, which is really cool. So then I was off to Fanshawe. As I said, I really appreciated my time there, and coming out of college, I was kind of like a jack of all trades because I was a self-taught videographer and did video with this creative agency and did some videos for myself before school. And basically, the photography really stepped up my game because it taught me all the technicalities of like cameras, how the settings work. I understood more how lighting worked, very important, of course. I had a much better understanding, and I remember going into college thinking I know how to take photos, like I'm pretty good. And looking back at my photos pre-college, they were garbage. So, it's good to humble yourself sometimes. But yeah, so in terms of where I've kind of went direction-wise with my career so far is a little bit different than the other two presenters, I would say, because I've kind of went with like the influencer route. Basically, I have videos I do for clients and then photos, and then on my Instagram has been primarily not client work. Actually, it's been like creative shoots and themed kind of stuff, like the seasons I was talking about. And right now I have a bunch of temporary posts, but it goes from a little bit of summer to a big autumn series to a big winter series, and now it's just starting spring. And basically I have like a huge spring and summer series coming out. Some of them have like models, some of them are scenic landscapes across Canada. I may be even going to Florida in a few months, so I'll be able to add some photos from like Miami or wherever I'll go travel to down there. And from there, then it's going to go to a New York series, and then I want to really, really focus on doing all my commercial stuff. Put all my commercial stuff on there, because what I've learned over the years is the scenic work isn't cutting it. It gets me followers and gets me likes, but it's not showing people that I do work that is of high value to like big clients, So that's kind of why I built a website recently too, because I was getting sick and tired of sending people samples. Now I just threw everything on the website and people can go do like a little gander over there. But I got off on a bit of a tangent. So what I meant by kind of choosing the influencer route was doing the creative shots for Instagram, but I also, as of the last year or so, have started working on vlogs. I have a couple travel vlogs, one from New York City, one from Iceland, one from my hometown, Niagara Falls, that have yet to be worked on. I started doing, like, the travel vlogs, and vlogs were kind of what I really wanted to focus on, but it's very time consuming, so they get pushed back. So I started doing talk videos, essentially. And the talk videos are just to talk about different topics, could be photography related or not. And it's a quick way for me to put content out there for myself, because I can sit down, shoot the video just off the top of my head within an hour, and then edit it within like 2 or 3 hours. Whereas like a travel vlog, I'm going to spend a couple $1,000s, go to a destination, get all these shots. It's a lot of work, right? And then, and most recently, I actually just started releasing podcasts. So that was about $1,000 investment between food for the day, assistance, a location. I think I spent like $400 on like a custom logo, and it's just like cool, like liquid logo type thing. Yeah. So liking that. And what I always have done too with my branding in terms of just how I name things is kind of unorthodox, and I really, really do not recommend using your name or an acronym of your name, because it's so freaking overdone in this industry. But that's unfortunately or fortunately what I did, because my name is just a crapshoot to pronounce. It's Zach Fairbrush Kirkness, but it kind of looks like Fabrachi or something. I think the worst pronunciation I've ever heard of it was Fubaruchu, and I was like, man, what am I, a Pokemon? So, yeah, basically it's ZFK_visuals. So anything that I brand in terms of something that's under my umbrella of stuff gets the underscore. So in college, I started a page for other artists that I would feature. It was called creators_cloud. For my vlogs, it's ZFK_vlogs. For my talk videos, it's just ZFK_talks. And then for the podcast, it was kind of a weird name to pick, but I ended up going with ZFK_everything. Just a blanket kind of statement of a name. So yeah, I guess for the most part, that's most of my bio. Some of my clients that I have either worked on projects for or are actually my clients at one point are Lego, Toyota, Hilton, Toronto Maple Leafs, Hudson's Bay. As of recent, KTEL with Walmart for Mini Pop Kids. Niagara Falls Tourism was another job I did this summer. It was like the formal welcoming back to Niagara post COVID lockdowns for marketing. That was a weird job though, because we recycled basically every major tourist attractions commercials and built new commercials because we couldn't get a film crew out and stuff due to the social distancing. But yeah, to name a couple other ones, Toronto Dominion Bank, Orange Theory Fitness, and then through Giant Shoe Creative, I also worked for Great Wolf Lodge with him, First Ontario Credit Union, and the Liberal and Conservative parties of Ontario. But yeah, to finish...
How are you finding this business? Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say, to finish my bio notes, again, it's a cutthroat industry, so just be ready. If you're really here to make it financially, as a freelancer, you have to maintain a positive mindset and, politely slay your competition. You'll have to work harder than other people, put in the 10,000 hours to craft your skill set. And, if you want to do it as a hobby or a side hustle, I understand some people are in school for that. So that's totally good too. If it's something you enjoy, then that's something that's going to add value to your life. But yeah, if you're looking to make it financially in this field, patience is a virtue. I've been at it since 2014/2015, and I was a registered business since 2017 or 18. So to be blunt, this is my basement. I still live at home. And it's actually kind of in part because I have some other things going on outside of photography. I actually invest in digital currencies and Bitcoin full-time and day trade. So essentially I'm just kind of sacrificing in order to make that happen in the meantime. But yeah, I think that's all I had. I just had a random tip too. I was going to say completely unrelated. I made this note at 2 a.m. last night, but don't neglect fitness and sleep. I did for quite a few years going through college, and I just got back on track before this lockdown that we're in right now in Ontario, and getting proper sleep and working out like 6 days a week made me so much more productive in terms of my work. It was really a game changer. So it's a great idea to kind of just make sure you're taking care of yourself, mind, body, soul. It'll help you in business. But yeah, so Phil, my notes start at what work do you currently do, favorite, preferred, specialized, and I think I have every note all the way down. And they're not as long as that whole spiel, so should be able to get through it. So what kind of work do I currently do? So like I was saying, Niagara is not really a huge media hub. A lot of my work that I would go and do, I'd have to go swing down to like Toronto or up to Toronto. It's really unfortunate, but I think I've only done like one job out London way since I've graduated, and I would love an excuse to get back out there. Like, I just always liked the culture of London and kind of the city. But I'm sure I'll get out there soon. But yeah, so kind of my bread and butter for the last year or two, starting 2019, has been real estate. And for me, it's a little different. I actually only have, a limited handful of real estate clients. But what I do work for is a lot of home developers. So they've hired me to essentially do progress and final shots of their developments or houses. And I've been able to basically get out there with a drone and video camera and stabilizer, and then like camera for photos and time lapses. And throughout the progress of the construction of some of these projects, I basically will work on a house for a year or two, or however long it takes, and then I'll have progress shots and final shots of the house, and then I'll have like these transformative reels of the house being put together. And a unique shot that I've started to see be copied by some other people in the region is I'll have a certain lens on at fully open on the focal length, and I'll put on a stabilizer and walk through certain parts of the house, and I'll take note of myself doing that and refer to it down the line. Then I'll go back months later when it's finished, try and replicate it perfectly, put it into Premiere, Adobe, and match it right up, and then basically have it go from unfinished with studs and whatever, and then it goes into like finished product. And it's pretty cool. I seen someone that I was a client, or sorry, was my client for a bit, and then they went with someone else for work, try and copy it like this week, and it didn't come out so good. So kind of was made me realize, like maybe I'm doing something right if people are copying it. But yeah, like I said, Niagara's kind of tough, and you have to look outside of Niagara to find some of your work. I will not be here forever, but definitely clean architectural photography has remained in demand, because Niagara for many years was Canada's hottest housing market. We're building here like crazy, and people are trying to get out of the GTA. They're flooding down to London, they're flooding down to Niagara. So I see it being a safe place to remain working in the foreseeable future.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Any work that you don't want to do?
Any work that I don't want to do?
Portraits.
My note is specifically to do with weddings, but why can't I find it? I can just tell you off the top of my head, but for me, with weddings, I would love to do more wedding photography. I really maybe only do like one or two a year, or I'll be a second shooter a couple times a year. But yeah, it's a little bit less stressful, and I've done some weddings through COVID too, while we were not on lockdown, and it was bizarre. But yeah, what I'm trying to avoid with weddings is wedding videos. I get inquiries from people all the time, and they'll be like, "Can you do like wedding photo and video?" And it's like, dude, I got two hands. No. I need an assistant, and we need like a full-time video guy that I trust, because I know that it's easy to mess up a wedding video, and then I'm gonna do the photos. But basically, yeah, like wedding videos to me.
Invested into it, they may not show up, and then you're in a real mess. So.
Yeah, it's just to me like wedding videos. I don't want to do a wedding video for anything less than like $3 or $4 grand, and like no one is willing to pay that in Niagara unless they have money. So yeah, it's kind of just a no-go for me. Yeah, okay, what question do you have for me next? I'm like completely confused with my notes right now.
That's all right. I was curious about the gear. Mainly, I wanted to talk to you about your drone.
Okay.
Are there now? I know the answer to this, but I'm curious if the students know it. The licensing, insurance, who can fly drones and so forth. Can anybody fly a drone and do it for commercial purposes?
No, it's become increasingly restrictive on drones. You have to go through Transport Canada and register the drone with an actual essentially a flight number, just like an airplane has, because it's an aircraft. And Phil, if you don't mind too, I'm actually just recording this for my own archival, so yeah. I'm just going to refresh my cameras real quick. Bear with me.
There are some consequences to flying drones if you don't have the right licensing. Well, I see Abby's asking some questions too. Well, I'll let you finish your point, and then we'll come to Abby's.
Okay. Yeah. So, like I said, the drones are no joke now. Unless you're under 250 milligrams, you can fly. Just anybody can fly. And the problem was with commercial drones was that people were using them as toys, and they were getting them as Christmas gifts. And I've crashed, I'm not going to say so many drones, but at least at least $3,000 or $4,000 worth of drones, and learn the hard way. My first drone I actually bought for $1,000 and I had for 3 weeks. Clipped a tree and it fell in Lake Ontario. Luckily I retrieved it. I still have it, but it doesn't work. But yeah, so I've been 2 years without a drone accident, and the whole strategy is you don't take your eyes off it. You learn how to get the smooth shots you want for video per se, and then you learn how to do it without looking at the monitor, because I'll be ducking and weaving between like power lines and trees and you name it to get architectural shots, because I drone all over the place for real estate. But yeah, as far as the restrictions go, you have to have a license. You also have to register the air, the aircraft. And I put my phone number on it as well, just in case it crashes somewhere and I can't find it, someone finds it. Also, you really only want to buy DJI. It's a weird industry. It's like it's only dominated by one company, DJI, for the most part. They offer a really good insurance program, so you can have a $75 mistake or you can have a $2,000 mistake. So you might as well get the insurance every year for $100-something, right? I'm trying to think if I had anything else to add to that. It's just with drones, it's all about safety. The odds of you hitting another aircraft are so low, but you have to be aware of what's around you as far as airports go. But really the ultimate concern, besides hitting a car or someone's property or whatever, the ultimate concern is if you ever hit somebody. Because at full velocity or whatever, those propellers will take eyeballs out. So, you'd never, ever, ever, ever want to be in court over something like that. So you got to be really, really cautious with the drone. But yeah, as long as you're responsible with it, it's a great toy.
Are asking for drone work, yeah.
All over the place.
And you better. Usually, what I do is I'm contracting out to people who have drones, and I have to make sure that they have that proper clearance and proper insurance and so forth. Otherwise, I'm just as liable. So keep that in mind.
That's right.
Abby's saying, how would you recommend getting started in real estate, snapping photos, approaching clients to see if they would want to buy them, or call them in advance, search online? Thank you for the great advice so far.
Yeah, no worries, Abby. Thanks for asking. I think that in my experience, it's been all about building a strong online presence. So that means doing shoots leisurely for yourself and working with talent and models and whatnot to kind of work on your portfolio and discover your style. I think that in my notes, I wanted to add an idea that I had the other night, was like just for like students and people getting started out, was that right now, if you have the time, and you should as a student, I don't know everyone's situation, but right now there's been no better time to approach clients and offer free work to build your portfolio, because everyone's locked down right now. Places that are open are kind of struggling, so their budgets aren't going to be the best. So this is a really good opportunity where you're probably going to find a lot of people that are willing to open up to you and have you come in and do some work. And essentially, I was really shocked there for a second. I was like, who was walking in here? My cat just opened the door himself and walked in. Just let yourself in, bud.
Second cat of the day.
I know. I was dying when I heard the cat meowing on the last one. But yeah, I would encourage you to try and just reach out and network with some businesses and offer them some free or cheap work. That way, especially if it doesn't work out because you're starting out, then it's no fault to you. And if it does work out and they put it on their social media, ask them to tag you and maybe hashtag your brand if you do hashtags, and recommend you to other people.
Yeah, just to get that portfolio going.
The portfolio is what it's all about.
Work.
That's what you and every professor always pushed, was build your portfolio, and
they're gonna make that judgment when they look at it and find you online. They're gonna like, I'll just do it here. They'll come to your Instagram, and they're literally gonna go like this, and by the time they get to here, they've already made up their mind. So you gotta
that's
ask
the truth.
Is the quality of work really demonstrating what I can do? If they actually click on a photo, wow, you've done something. But most will just scroll, and they've already made up their mind. clicking on it tells you so much more. So
That's great. That's great insight. So true. Um, Before we get on with the notes too, just a random note I had was, I believe you coined this. Tell me if you're right or wrong, but one of your questions was, do you do you work outside of photography? And I wrote video exclamation mark exclamation mark. Phil coined creatives that can go both ways back in college as industry predators. And I've kind of tried to pride myself as one ever since. I like that term. I've used it with other people that I'm working with or mentoring or explaining how the industry works, especially in Niagara. Like I said, I'm not of a scarcity mindset. I'm more of an abundance mindset. I don't get standoffish with other creators and creative people, but I look at it from an abundance standpoint. There's enough work to go around. But in Niagara, there is a bit less, so you have to really play both sides of the field, you know? Yeah. I think the next note I had, like I said, these should all be in order, so I don't really know what happened there. But the next one was tips for working outside of paid jobs. So kind of some personal advice from me would be consider getting a serving job. Reason being is I would not have been able to get all the gear and invest in my business and myself efficiently without a serving job. We have no shortage of them in Niagara, as you know if you've ever been here. It's cash in hand every night. And also importantly is it teaches you how to deal with difficult people, i.e. difficult clients, and it teaches you how to put a smile on your face and resolve situations. And it really helps you speak on your feet really quick, you know? I remember my first restaurant job, obviously I wasn't serving, it was my first job, and I was like just coming out of grade 8, and in terms of like strangers and other like co-workers, like I was a bit shy or maybe antisocial, so it really broke me out of my shell. You have to talk to other people. The more friendly and the more articulate you can be and get your communication, your points across, the better off you're going to be in business. Consider getting other side hustles. The more income streams, the better, because sometimes things get slow in photography. The last speaker said it's either feast or famine. Oh, can I relate? It's always like that. I'm either running around like a chicken with my head cut off, hating my life, or I have nothing going on at all. There's no in between. Some side hustles may require more time than others. One that I have really enjoyed was cryptocurrency. Not for everyone. It's a good little place to put a little extra money if you have it here and there, or if you get really interested into it, you could even day trade it. But you definitely got to pay attention there. But definitely a good side hustle for someone that's into like the YouTubing and photo and video. Also definitely consider, I don't know if it's mandatory for this class, but I think I already explained my mentorship that I experienced, and then I tried to give back with a co-op student, and I now have another young guy about 18. His name's Mitchell. I bring him to almost every shoot, whether or not I can afford it, or sometimes if it is just a cheap shoot or like a shoot that's for fun, he just comes for free because he enjoys spending time with me. I bring him everywhere, and I'm teaching him the ways. He just got a Canon R ESR and a nice 24-70 2.8, so he's loving that. I think he was on, I can't remember what he was on before, maybe Lumix or something. Got to get on a Canon or a Nikon or some sort of mainstream brand. I only threw the Nikon in there because I knew you'd cringe if I just said Canon. Phil Bell sponsored by Nikon.
That's right.
But yeah, I think
Sony's taking over the world though.
I think Canon's coming back though with the R5 and 6 with the mirrorless. Like the video, like I had switched over.
Everybody, even Nikon, has to get their act together.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll get to the gear note, but I was always a diehard Canon guy, but I switched over to Sony for video for that reason, because Canon's video was just crap. So now, ironically, I think, honest to God, I think Canon had a bunch of, stuff up their sleeve, and Sony was putting out the best cameras possible, mirrorless, for video and small sizes. And it was just like, Canon, come on. Like, we know you got the tech to keep up with Sony, and they're not doing it. And then all of a sudden, they just, out of nowhere, they do the ESR, and it was missing some things. It was kind of like, this is a little disappointing. And then the next year, they finally come out with their master plan that was the R5 and 6, similar to the 5D and 6D. Like they crushed it. So essentially, they knew what they were doing. They were just holding stuff up their sleeves because they're a corporation, right? But yeah, can you start me off with? Oh yeah, I guess we kind of already. Okay, no. Can you start me off with? Is there any photography you don't do? No.
Right.
Sorry, Phil. Can you skip to? Is there any work? Is there any work that you just won't do? Okay, well, I guess those are the same questions, but I got a good note there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
Industry rates. How did you figure out your pricing?
Okay, hold on. I'm just going to skip back here for a sec. So,
Sure.
Just to finish with is there any work that you won't do? If so, why? I would recommend this, but like put it this way, for me, I'm kind of like a jack of all trades, and I'm all over the place. I do all kinds of different work, and in some ways that harms me because then I just get overextended, right? Definitely I recommend trying to squeeze into a niche of some sort, because if you just focus on one niche and you just crush that to no return, you will have lots of business coming in just for that one thing, enough to sustain you, right? So I recommend that. But like I said, I'm pretty open to exploration. I do all kinds of stuff. The other thing is too, you'll find the busier you get, the more you get to pick and choose, which is really fun. A big factor when you're starting out in deciding jobs is to weigh these two things: portfolio value and monetary value. Sometimes there's no monetary value, but the portfolio value is huge. And then sometimes the portfolio value is just kind of meh. You might not use it for your portfolio, but because the client's got lots of money to spend, the monetary value is good. So you kind of got to weigh those things out. Sometimes it's okay to do free work or like cheap work if the portfolio value is good. For example, that Hilton job that we were talking about, I was talking to one of my friends that is a bit of a mentor as well, about the Hilton job, and I was really stoked about it. But I was like, yeah, like I think I'm gonna shoot for like 2,000 or so for the first level of their renovations, right? And he's like, yeah, definitely stick to that and don't do less. Because what I was trying to say to him was like, look, I'm so stoked for this job that I'll do it for free. Like, portfolio value is max. So
you shot the Hilton. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. You get to say that was your client. So I was like, honestly, if they shoot me down at 2,000, the lowest I'll probably go is like $500 or $700. I'll like literally regret it later when I'm editing it. That's for sure. But I'll still have the portfolio value. But luckily they went for the 2,000 or so that I had pitched. So I was happy. Another example would be a trip I went on this summer, which ended up being a disaster. Quite the experience though. Was I won't name the client, but basically I worked for a couple that started their own hip hop review show, and they only had $1,000 budget for a 2-week long job, which is not good. But all expenses covered, which is food and hotels and car rental. And we got to drive all the way out to Vancouver Island, and I even met like a couple celebrities. Like one of them was, his name's Mercules. He's a rapper from the island, and he's got 1 million followers on YouTube. There's like another guy, silly name. This guy basically blew up because he's making fun of like new aged rappers. They call them mumble rappers, but his name's Lil Windex, and like I had been following this guy for like 4 or 5 years at this point, and like he just kills me every time. So I was like, okay, Mercules, Windex, and there's a couple other names I recognize on there. I have to go, and yeah, it was a ride. And I only made like $1,000 and maybe spent like 150 or whatever while I was out there, but the memories and the trip, and the main thing too is I had never been out to BC, and I had always wanted to go out west, so. For $1,000, it was well worth the 2 weeks, and it was quite the trip.
Experience.
Yeah. So I guess we'll jump to gear, buy it or lease it. Phil, do you think? Yeah, you know what? Yeah, at some points you have to lease stuff, but how commonly do you think people are leasing gear these days?
If they're earning their money, majority of their money from photography, they should be leasing it.
Okay.
because you can write it off.
Right.
So the government's percentage changes year to year. That's why you got to talk to an accountant. But I believe it's around 60%. If you can actually prove that 60% of your income or more is coming from photography,
Yep.
you can write off lease payments. And let me repeat that: write it off. So if you're paying $300 a month for gear via lease, that's $3,600 you get to deduct from your taxes. It's massive.
It
But
it
you
is.
gotta be at that established level. So in the beginning, a lot of students will buy their gear, but once you're established, start leasing it.
And pay attention when we get to the taxes part, guys, because I definitely got some stuff to add there. But yeah, I don't typically lease stuff. Sometimes if I need something specialty, I'll borrow it from a friend, and I'm always willing to pay because they have to come spend their time to meet me and trust me not to break their stuff. In the past, I've loaned my gear out, and then I may not file it for taxes, but I do keep record of the transaction just for my own records. Um, good practice to file everything though. Like when I loan stuff out, it's just to friends. It's something cheap, like 20 or 30 bucks here and there, and it's not often, so it's not a big part of my income. But for gear, still using my Fanshawe MacBook Pro. Things held up like a beauty. I used to shoot Canon 60 for years. Now I actually broke my 60. I didn't break it, but it got like. Actually, you know what, Phil? This would be a great question for you. Have you ever heard of micro metal getting stuck to a sensor?
Never.
Okay, guys, I dropped a 60 and it has like dust in the sensor that's impossible to remove, even with a wet cleaning kit.
Really?
And I was told by someone at a specialty store that if you get chunks of metal on your sensor, it'll never come off because apparently the sensor is like magnetized or something.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Wow, no.
I switched to the 5D Mark III because that's something affordable and good quality even to this day as a 12-year-old camera.
Yeah.
Is it 12? I think it's like 10 or 12 years old.
Say.
But yeah, so that's what I shoot with for photography is my 5D Mark III, and then I have a Sony A7S for video. I actually only have 3 lenses right now. I have a 17-40 f4, so that's for my architecture shots where I need to get really wide lens, and especially bathrooms and houses and stuff, they're always cramped. So even something wider than a 17 millimeter would be recommended. Sometimes I have to bracket shots, and I'll kind of just go and do like a pano and stitch them together because the bathroom's that tight. One of my main lenses is the 74 to 74 jeepers. Had a little stroke there. 24 to 72.8. It's a really clean Sigma lens, and you know it's just very versatile on the fly. You can zoom in and out. I know. We
Sigmas
both.
are nice, and they're about 40% less than the.
They are, yeah. That's why I went with it. I think I got it.
Sharp.
I think I got it for like $1,800 on sale, and honestly, it's been one of my favorite lenses ever. And I definitely do appreciate prime lenses like you do. It's actually a preference, but a lot of the time just on the fly, and I need lenses that can go on my video camera or my photo camera. It's good to have a little bit of zoom flexibility. The creme de la creme, as my mentor Brad at Giant Shoe would call it, was the 70 to 200. Unfortunately, it's only an f4. I've worked with the 2.8 countless times, and the difference between a 70 to 200 f4 to a 2.8 is ridiculous. Like a 2.8 70 to 200 millimeter is something you have to have in your toolkit. It compresses the backgrounds and really lets you focus on the subject, which is important. The wider you go, the less focus on your subject. So I have the Mavic 2 for drone. I have a Ronin S, which is a stabilizer for the camera. That's been a great, those are my 2 favorite toys, is the Mavic 2 and the Ronin S, and they're both by DJI. They're a great company. I got a couple tripods, one with a smooth head for video so I can put on a long lens and not have it be all shaky. It's on a nice smooth head. Got lights, and then I got like a boom pole and a boom mic, and then you hook it up with a zoom recorder. Got strobes, of course, because lighting's important for photography. Like I have LED lights and then strobes. I hate, despise LED light photography. don't want to see that ever. It doesn't. It's not the same as the strobes. I have always described lighting and photography as what separates the amateurs from the pros is how they use strobes, or if they use strobes at all, and the work is not comparable, you know. And then the other two things that I wanted to really recommend that I use in my work a lot and has really, really like been a game changer for me is NDs. Depending on the quality of neutral density filters. Depending on the quality, they kind of get expensive, but variable NDs are good for on the fly. But NDs allow you to bring your shutter speed down and allow you to get sharper shots with a bit more motion blur sometimes. And it also allows you to work in darker lighting conditions. And the other one was triggers. So again, with the long exposure type style, if you don't have a trigger, your hand motion often shakes the camera. And I didn't work with triggers for a while after college, but once I got into the triggers, I was like, oh man, this is a game changer, you know? Because I am always doing multi-composites on tripods with a trigger, and I have to use NDs because if I want to drop the shutter speed, it's going to get blown out, you know?
Yeah, I use the poor man's trigger, self-timer.
Oh, yeah, Canon's bumming.
3-second self-timer.
Yeah, Canon doesn't offer that, which is kind of ridiculous. Same with, do Nikons usually have built-in intervalometer? For anyone that doesn't know, intervalometer is like for time lapses. It'll do a certain amount of pictures at a certain rate. Yeah. But yeah, Canon doesn't offer it, so Nikon doesn't either?
No, it does. Yeah.
Oh, it does?
Yeah, at least the 750 does, yeah.
Well, now I have a reason to think Nikon's better. Someone asked, what company do you lease from? Unfortunately, it's a complete heartbreaker. You used to be able to get all kinds of stuff from Henry's, so I used to do that. I actually once dropped a 5D Mark IV with a 85mm 2.8 or 1.4.
Nice.
Yeah, so that was a huge bill. For a job I was doing cheap already. Tracy says, ouch. Ouch, all right. Vistech is in Toronto. You can rent from them. Honestly, other than that, unless you know some people, it's not really a big industry.
Tracy, if you're talking about like if you want to lease your gear, what leasing company? A good one that I like using is called Equilease. I'll even spell it here. And I like using them because they know photographers, they know photography gear. You won't be talking. They'll understand you when you call, so they're worth looking into it. And they can quote you the prices.
Right on.
For anybody who's considering leasing their gear, remember you talk to your accountant first to find out if it makes sense for you to lease or buy. When you're in the beginning, usually it's buy, but once you're established, look at leasing.
Depending on the budget, if the client can afford it and you need like some sort of specialty gear, by all means, like consider renting stuff, you know? Sometimes
Absolutely.
You don't have the means.
Write-off.
And it's a write-off.
And it's a full write-off. So the client either pays for it, and if they don't pay for it, you can deduct it at the end of the year. You get it back later. So
the more write-offs, the better. Honestly, I've found that over time. I've only been filing business taxes separately for 2 years now. My third year will be coming up this spring. Right. I'm wondering how the hell I'm going to pay it because things have really slowed down since this lockdown, more so than last lockdown. But so industry rates, if you'd like to read the question.
Sure. Just what do you charge industry rates? I'd like to know how you compare with your competitors. Are you equally priced, less or more? How do you determine your rate?
Okay. So
stuff like that.
You'll be disappointed to hear this, but I might be under market rate here and there. Quoting and finding your rate and what you think you're worth per hour isn't actually that easy. It takes some time and realizing if I'm going to do A for client, A is going to cost me this much time and expenses of B are going to be costing me that much that much money here and there. And you kind of learn through trial and error what you're worth and you develop an idea of what your value is. This year, I'm avoiding hourly bills and micro transactions. So I would bill by the hour, which is kind of stupid, but I would bill by the hour for the shoot time, the edit time. drive time if it's past Niagara boundaries, and fuel, and then assets like motion stuff for video, or I always use licensed music to keep my clients out of harm's way legally. So those types of things. Now I'm kind of switching to doing just flat rate packages. Okay, you want this? Hang tight. I'll send you a quote tomorrow morning or something. And they'll get a quote and it'll say what everything's worth, and basically it's just a non-negotiable kind of flat rate. If you want to take it or leave it, that's just how it is. Once you get busier, you get to pick and choose, and if something's not really worth your time, then why stress over it, right? So yeah, I'm switching away from doing all these little like micro charges and hourlies. I just want to do flat rates, make it more simple for the client and me. And I'm kind of more focused on packages as well, and definitely trying to work on my quoting accuracy, because boy, like, is it ever frustrating to basically quote something and then it's just completely off down the road. Like, you'd think something's going to take you 8 hours to edit and it ends up taking 30 hours or something ridiculous like that.
Experience, right?
Yeah.
The other issue with quoting hourly that I've heard from other photographers is that your clients will end up taking advantage of you too. They'll end up wanting more in less time. When you're not attached to an hourly rate, it's just to the project. You can complete the project in your due time.
That's right.
If it's just 2 hours, you've billed for 2 hours or agreed to 2 hours, then all of a sudden they're like, come on, we gotta go, we gotta get moving. You should be done this shit by now. We gotta get to the next one because I want it done in 2 hours. You end up rushing yourself, and work suffers in the long run.
Oh, Phil, you're the best for covering me while I'm trying to reset my camera.
Right.
If you want to jump to the next question.
Yeah, just kind of I'll jump to this one. How much does the client dictate what they want, or do they tell you what exactly you're going to be doing, or how much are they leaving it up to your creative control?
Depends on how big the client is. Right. So the idea with that is, the smaller the client, the more creative flexibility you have, right? Because they're kind of just getting started out too. They kind of just want something cool that's going to represent their brand well. And, they're not going to expect that much of you if you're doing something for free or for cheap type idea, right? So when it's a larger client, that's when things get more complicated. You'll have a more strict kind of guideline you got to follow, more planning, scripts for like video, for example, or shot lists for photography as well. And it kind of just, it really is a client to client thing. The bigger the client, the bigger the budget, the more control that they're going to want to have.
And they might even send an art director along. It's actually like your chaperone. And this is what I want you to shoot. Shoot this, shoot that.
Yeah, that's right. So
you're kind of the gopher.
it can get a little bit complicated. Like, as of recent, a project I've had ongoing since December was one for Mini Pop Kids, and they're owned by Walmart. So I'm working with basically the director of cinematography, or director of photography, as we call it in this industry, which doesn't even make a lot of sense to layman's, because it's not photography. They're like the video guy. He hired me to do the editing, so I'm working back and forth with some of the people on their marketing team, and every day I'm calling back and forth with the director of the project, and director of photography is still involved and stuff. It's a team effort for sure. It just, things start to get out of your hands in terms of control, and you have to kind of follow the script. Were you curious at all about fees? Right. And not my fees per se, but some of my expenses.
Okay. And you were going to talk about taxes too.
Yep, I think that's it. Goes fees, how do I get paid, and then I think taxes is after that. just to give my kind of monthly stuff, you have Adobe Creative Suites. So that, once you're not a student, is maybe 40 or $50 a month, and you can't not have that. Gmail hosting, so I have like a simulated website along with my kind of email address or whatever, so that's like 10 or $15 a month. Dropbox cloud storage, $15 a month, and that gives me 2 terabytes of storage, and basically that allows me to send stuff to my clients in full quality. And while I'm out, people will be like, oh, I can't find this or whatever, and I'm like, oh, I'm out, I can't go run home to my laptop, so I just whip my phone out, go on Dropbox, and I just remotely send people stuff. So it's a game changer, right? OSAP, of course. Car payments and insurance. You have to have wheels to get around. The more gear you have, the less likely you're going to be able to efficiently use a bus network or something, right? Phone bill, Squarespace, web hosting. I pay once a year for Mile IQ. So in regards to taxes, I learned the hard way my first year filing taxes. You can't write off anything with your car unless you know exactly how much you use it for business versus personal. So I have an app on my phone that I pay for every year, and basically it tracks me everywhere I go, and I swipe left for business and right for personal. Makes it nice and easy. And yeah,
What was the app on that?
Mile IQ. It's a Microsoft app. I think I pay like $80 a year, and it's well worth, because like you have thousands of dollars of write-offs. Just that's without fuel.
Absolutely.
Right? So yeah, all in all, that's like over $600 or $700 a month. It gets pricey. You don't have to drive a brand new car like I decided to. That's kind of a stupid decision, but it does look good when you pull up in a new car and you unload the gear, and they're like, oh, okay, this guy's got his shit together. Meanwhile, it's just the front. But misc expenses while you're out: meals, parking, fuel, ads, prints, music licensing if you're making videos, motion assets if you need to incorporate more stylistic stuff to your videos, and accounting fees. You're going to be looking at paying around $300 probably for an accountant. Again, well worth it, because you might not want the headache of trying to figure out how it all works. I sure don't. So yeah, when you're thinking of like your prices, you want to take all of those things into account, and your hard work, time, and effort. This is why your rate should be high. And like I was saying earlier, you might not know your value starting out, but over time you'll develop a sense of your value, So payments, clients typically pay by e-transfer. The bigger the business, they typically will send you a check. Keep in mind, they have to run by a check schedule. You can't just demand it right away. You can ask them, when's your next check cycle, So you got to kind of wait with that. It's good practice to collect a 30% deposit to cover yourself if they flake on you or if they take forever to pay. Also overquote always, because it's easy to underestimate how much time something's going to take you. Don't be afraid to ask for more money if your clients ask you to go above and beyond the original plans. Also good practice to add a date that you need to pay by on invoice, because otherwise sometimes people will just kind of just string it out as long as they can. And it's also fair to send a reminder if you have that date on your calendar for when that invoice is due. Sometimes I use Square Reader. I think Thomas was mentioning that. He was the first speaker, right, Thomas?
Yeah.
They're good because you can get the reader for cheap. It goes into the bottom of an iPhone, or you can get it for Android. And it's just a swiper or whatever. You can get ones with tap. They do give you a fee, like you can direct deposit to your business account. They ask for a fee of 3%, so usually I'll ask that to be covered by the client, because then otherwise that 3% comes out of my pocket. The last thing I want to note on that was also payment speed from clients has always been a problem. It's actually caused me to go into debt, because once I stopped working my serving jobs, I still had to go out and find new work and drive and eat while I'm freaking 2 hours away from home and that kind of stuff. So I'm basically spending on credit all the time. And then basically whenever it's kind of like you lose the security of having a 2-week paycheck, but your paychecks are few and far in between, but they're like huge. So you're just basically living on the fly, paying by credit, and then you're just throwing lump sums onto the credit all the time and making sure that you have your taxes set aside and then your bills set aside in your bank account, because you don't want to have a bad credit score because your bill doesn't pay or get paid or whatever. Another tip would be as well is to open a separate business account at your bank to your personal. That way everything that's going on with your business stays in that business account and doesn't blend and bleed into your personal account, because if you ever get audited and everything's mixed and you haven't kept good books, you're screwed. The CRA or whatever it is going to make your life miserable. It's good practice to keep good books. That means keeping all of your invoices, separate invoice numbers, write in the invoice what it is and break down the payments, and then also good practice to keep all of your receipts, and even that can be for meals too. I will just write B on receipts and throw them into a basket, sort them out later in my car. But I guess I should mention I actually practice keeping my receipts for everything, even though it's kind of neurotic. I will separate the business's receipts from my personal later, and then I get to go through and tie them all up and see how much money I spent on dumb stuff. And that's actually kind of a homage to my great-grandfather, who was super frugal with his money, and basically I wanted to follow in his steps and make sure that I practiced that a little bit, even though I'm definitely not as frugal as he was.
Well, I think most people, they see the work with gathering receipts and they don't do it because it is work. But the reality is, and I don't think I have a piece of paper. Yeah, I do. Okay, there's a receipt. You don't even need to see what it is. But the accountant would say to me, but if this was a $5 bill, you would know exactly where it is. Or maybe a $20 bill for you, whatever it is.
That's right.
The point is I can look at it right now. What is this? The HST on this was $3.73. So this is a $3.73 bill.
Very good point.
If I lose it, I've lost $3.73.
And
your receipts. The government wants those stupid receipts.
They sure do, and it's no joke, honestly. Like, just doing something as simple as keeping your receipts will save you so much money. Like, I was going to mention, you don't have to worry about HST, which is the 13% that you would bill on top of all your stuff till you make $30K. I would have definitely been there by this year, but COVID kind of threw a wrench in the plan, so I'll be registering for it for next year. But yeah, like, I think my taxes for this summer, I was able to extend it to September to pay. So in September, it was like $7,000 something out of pocket. I'm like, oh my god. So I sent it to that was just tallying it up at home. So I sent it to the accountant. She's good. I think I paid her like $300. She got it down to like $3,000. So it's just like, save your receipts for God's sakes and give it to an accountant, because they can take thousands of dollars off of your taxes. And like, even that $3,000 something cleared my bank account out. So imagine a $7,000 bill, or if you're really actually making a good income, you're going into tens of thousands of dollars of taxes potentially, right? But yeah,
Smart.
I feel like that's enough of the dry talk. What else would you like to get to on this list?
Well, you've actually covered quite a bit of it there. I'm looking at anything that we missed. What's your future looking like? What's coming up? What do you think COVID's going to do to things? How drastically has it changed your business?
Well, for me, it's a little unorthodox, I suppose, but by next year, because I think I'm playing my cards right with the business as my plan A, but I have a very solid plan B in cryptocurrencies. I think I will actually be able to step away from freelancing for a bit, and reserve most of my focus towards influencing and with YouTube and IG content, Instagram. And yeah, basically without the need for constant cash flow, if I have a nice cushion that's going on, I'll just basically be able to reserve my attention for only the pick of the crop jobs. And it'll either be like 5-10K minimum, or it's gonna be less than that, but it's a client that I really, really want to work with and represent. So, yeah, I guess that's kind of the idea. I've been looking to step back for years, but the thing with influencing is it doesn't pay till you make it. So, you gotta hustle and work hard and have a side job, do your photography stuff until you make it, if that's the route you're going, because be prepared to make no money off of just being a personal brand for yourself for years at a time. It'll take a little bit. I guess also just in regards to COVID, marketing will always be in demand. Luckily, real estate got me and my business through COVID. I would have assumed that real estate would have definitely collapsed, but oddly enough, it's still going strong, if not stronger than ever. I know some realtors that I work for in Niagara sold more houses in the spring of 2020 than in a month than they did in the entire year of 2019, because everyone's getting out of Toronto. It's crazy. So yeah, definitely still going strong. And long term, I do not foresee anything significant. It's just kind of short term. Things are really slowed down. We are a society of digital consumption for sure. And really, it's about, do you want to be on the side of consumption or creation? And in this field, you should be spending more time and putting more focus into creating stuff than consuming it. There's no end of people looking to consume digital media, and that's where you can kind of exploit that and make money and make a career out of it.
Yeah. Good advice.
Yeah. I think first lockdown was really scary. Like, none of us knew what was going to happen, and it seemed like the world was falling apart. But luckily for me, like I said, real estate got me through. I had a lot of backlogged editing that I needed to work on, so it kind of gave me that time to really plan the future, self-reflect, and kind of get my stuff together. So luckily I had some work, and luckily in Canada we have some government stimulus to help businesses get through, and like I said, I trade some currency and stuff on the side, so that's good. In Niagara, our tourist-based economy really took a hit, so businesses, especially more so, I find the second lockdown, are really shifting from thriving marketing budgets to just trying to shift to a survival mindset. They are not putting big attention to their marketing right now because it's not that important to most of them, because they're just getting by, right? So I've really found that work has slowed down the last month and a half. And I also am finding, because people are just surviving, they're expecting more for less. Like, it's crazy. It may not be the same situation out maybe London or Toronto way, but it's really, really like that out here. So I'm looking forward to getting some, economic oil flowing again and getting the cogs going and getting people back to work. Because to be frank, I'm a little bit sick of this situation, as I think we all are. We all want to get back to work, right? I think it's most important and healthy to be busy and just getting out there and getting stuff done. It gives you a sense of purpose, So yeah, I want to see everyone happy and back to work, and really your financial livelihood is the most important part. So if you can make that happen, work on making sure that you're financially secure, and happiness should follow, and all the cards should fall into place.
That's great advice.
It's your lively security, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
I've put your information back up on the screen here.
Awesome.
Hopefully people will check you out, follow you. If they have any more questions, they'll know how to track you down.
Yeah, you know what, guys, too, I just wanted to add, definitely not trying to shill you my Instagram, but go follow it and shoot me a message. Let me know that you were in this session. I will follow you back. And I love to see progress. I love to see people's work evolve. I will be keeping an eye out. Make sure that you follow and send me a DM, and that way I can know to follow you back, and I'll be keeping an eye on you. I will be I'll be commenting and liking your stuff, and feel free to just shoot me a DM if you ever want to chat, or you have a question, or you need some help with some direction. I'm always happy to help, and I feel like it's my community kind of service to help others, so I'm always happy to do so.
That's cool. Awesome. Thanks, Zach.
No worries.
Enjoy the rest of your day, and everybody's we've got a few chats coming in here that are saying thanks as well, so really appreciate you spend the time here this morning to talk to our group. So,
My pleasure.
be
I'm
safe.
so honored.
All right, man. Take it easy.
Good to see you, Phil. Take care.
Thank
Eh?
you. Bye bye.
Ciao.
That was awesome, everybody. I hope you liked that. I tried to get you three kind of different photographers there, three different avenues, and it's pretty fun.